Hello everyone, I'm Brian and today is part 2 of Swami, Who Am I? So I kind of rewind it just a little bit, so let's go ahead and get started.
The waker is apart from the dreamer is apart from the waker, but there is something continuing in both of them, that is the Turiya, the fourth one. Similarly, the dreamer is apart from the sleeper is apart from the dreamer, but you own up, all of us, we own up, it was my dream and it is my deep sleep, and it is my waking. Who is that one who is saying it is my waking, my deep sleep, my dream? That one is the consciousness which is apart from the waking self, apart from the dreamer self, apart from the sleeper self, and yet in and through all of them. So that this Turiya, the reality, is right now here. It is here now. But
it's also in all of them.
It is not exactly the Mr. or Mrs. so-and-so. What is added to the Turiya are the circumstances of the waker. It goes like this. Just like gold, you have consciousness. Just see. You are aware of this class now. Before this class was not there, something else was there in your life. Now this class is going on. After some time, this class will be over, something else will come, maybe you'll go back to your hostel or your house, so a new circumstance will come. In all cases, what happened before, what is happening now, what will happen later, you are the consciousness watching all of them. The circumstances are coming and going. Look at your own body. You see yourself as a young person or a middle-aged or an old person. Remember, the same consciousness was watching when you were a 10-year-old kid, when you were 20 years old, what you are now, and it's the same consciousness which will be watching when you are much older. So the body is changing continuously. The consciousness which watches the same. How can you say it is the same? Because it's our experience. We own up to it. I was the one in the 10-year-old's body. I am the one in the teenager's body. I am the one in this middle-aged body. So who is this continuous I? Because the body is changing. Body is continuously changing. Similarly, the mind is also changing. Imagine your mind when you are in, say, class 10. You're sitting for your class 10 examination. Why I'm saying class 10? Because everybody remembers the class 10 board exams and the first big board exams which you had to face. So imagine your mind at that time, what you knew, what you did not know, what you liked, what you did not like, what you wanted, and just imagine, compare it with your mind now. You know so many things more. Your likes and dislikes have changed. What you want in life has changed. So the mind is also continuously changing.
That makes sense, because I had a question in my mind, and that still kind of makes sense. The question I had was the fact that your mind is unreliable because you forget things. But it's still that disconnect there between your mind and this consciousness. And the fact that he's saying that your body changes is absolutely true. I mean, as far as, again, what I've learned, which was, I think your body basically dies every 7 years or 8 years or whatever the amount of years is. You're a completely new person after that many years has passed. Basically every cell in your body has been replaced, but yet you are still there. Again, I think of it still in terms of the Western and Eastern. I understand I understand the Western. I understand this disconnect again, but it's still not clicking for me. But I really understand it a lot more. And I just still don't know how to piece it together. But I understand it, but I can't piece it together. I don't know how else to explain that, but I understand it, but I can't piece it together. But I understand it.
But there is the same consciousness which was watching the mind of that class 10 student is also right here watching the mind of this IIT student now. So mind is a series of changes. Consciousness is not changing. Similarly, every day, when we go from waking to dream to deep sleep, when we go from waking to dream to deep sleep, the consciousness is the same. See, the world has changed. The waking world disappears and the dream world comes. A dream body comes. Remember, the body which you have in the dream is different from the body of the waking world. Why? Because the waking world body is lying on the bed.
Oh, okay.
But in the dream body, you're doing so many things.
No, I'm still fat in the dream world too.
It's a false body, no doubt. But your experience is that you have a body there in that world.
Yeah, gotcha.
So consciousness is apart from the waking world and the waking body. Consciousness is apart from the dream world and the dream body. And consciousness is apart from the deep sleep blankness. It is in and through all of them. The states are coming and going, and the ego associated with each state is coming and going, but the consciousness is illumining all of them. The correct way to show this diagram would be the fourth one is not here.
Yeah, I was going to say, it shouldn't be there because that's not part of the ego. It is something that is in all of them, but not individual ones.
But the fourth one is
to the left
here,
of it? Yeah.
Turiyam.
I'm glad I'm understanding him, honestly. This dude is amazing at explaining stuff. Really good. And I understood his first one. That's one thing I really liked about him, is that he's so easy to understand. He's an amazing teacher. He knows how to explain things.
It illumines the waker, illumines the dreamer, illumines the sleeper, and this is the only reality. And this is the answer
from
to
the ego.
Who am I?
And that's what someone said in the comments. It makes sense now. You have your ego, and your consciousness is separate from the ego. Whenever I think of ego, though, I think of someone who's like egotistical or who has a big ego. Not like ego in this sense. So I understand what I meant by ego now.
The question is, what are you or what am I apart from this waking state, apart from the dream state, apart from deep sleep, apart from the physical world of the waking state, apart from the mental imagination of the dream state, and apart from the blankness of the deep sleep state. One of our Swamis used to give this example.
One of our Swamis. Wait, so that's not his name? I thought that was his name. Uh-oh. I have to change the titles now. Uh-oh. I need to find out what his name is. Whoops. My bad.
Station master sitting on the station, maybe in Kanpur, and first Rajdhani Express comes on the platform number 1 or something. Rajdhani Express comes. So very important train, lot of people are getting in and getting out, so much of rush is there, so much activity. The station master watches. Then he gives a signal, the Rajdhani Express goes away, but the station master does not go away with Rajdhani Express. He is watching. Then another train comes, maybe a goods train. No activity, smoky, not many people, and very few people, 1 or 2 people may be there. It comes and stops for some time. Station master is watching. He gives the signal, the goods train goes away. But the station master has not gone with the goods train. He is on the platform watching. Next, what happens? No train is there. It's a blank platform. The blankness is there. The station master is watching the blankness. Now, this is exactly what is happening. You, the pure consciousness, you watch the arrival of the waking state, just like Rajdhani Express. So many hopes and aspirations and success and failure and problems, all of it comes with the body and with the world, and you are watching. Only thing is, you get identified with the mind in the waking state and say, I am Mr. So-and-so, and this is my reality. These are my problems, these are my hopes, success and failure, these are my goals. After some time, that disappears. You, like the station master, this one, you are watching. Dream world comes with a dream body, with dream, nice dreams and nightmares and all and so forth. You become identified with the dream body and dream mind, and you go through these dream experiences. Then that also goes away. Blank platform. You are the consciousness watching the blank platform.
But there's nothing to
and
experience.
again the waking state comes, and Rajdhani Express comes again. But you are apart from all of them. Not only you are apart from all of them, you are untouched by all of them. You are untouched by all of them. The sufferings and enjoyments of the waking state, of the dream state, and the blankness of the sleep state, none of them touch the pure consciousness, which is apart from all of them. But it sustains all of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, because the things, when you're in a dream state, the experiences you feel there will travel to your wake state. And whatever your wake state has will sometimes travel to your dream state. And obviously not every single thing that you experience in the wake state will be in the dream state. Some aspects of your wake state will be in a dream state. But so the wake and the dream state interact because of this fourth state. So it does affect you. I think that's. I mean, he's saying it's not, but which is kind of weird because this fourth state, or well, this consciousness of who you are, is carrying everything from the waker state, the dreamer state. Well, obviously nothing in the sleep state because there's nothing to experience there. But there is still that state that where you experience nothing. Yeah, but yeah. So he's saying it doesn't affect you, but why? When this 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 fourth state, I don't want to say the fourth state because it's not part of the, it's not a fourth state, it's the state that's in everything, transfers all this information between the waker and the dreamer.
In its light, the entire game is illumined. This whole thing is illumined in its light. Now we'll quickly go through the verse and try to understand what they're trying to say. Let me read out the verse once for you, then I'll break it up and explain it. Now you'll see it will all become perfectly clear. The verse goes like this, the mantra goes like this. Nantaf pragyam na bahish pragyam, na ubhayataf pragyam na pragyana ghanam, na pragyam na pragyam. Adrishyam avyavaharyam agrahyam alakshanam achintyam avyapadeshyam ekatma pratyasaram prapanchopashamam shantam shivam advaitam chaturtham manyante sa atma savigneya. What does it mean? Let me take you through this. There are three parts here. The first two parts, first part, it denies that you are the waker. He says that you are not this waking person you imagine yourself to be now. You are not the dreamer. You are not the sleeper also. That's the first part. The second part of it will deny you are not this Turiyam, the reality, real you. You are apart from this waking world. You are not this physical body of the world or anything to do with this world. You are apart from the dream world. And you are apart from the blankness of the sleep world. The third part will tell you that you are in and through, just like gold is through all this. The third part will tell you, you are the consciousness which is watching all this panorama, this game of the Jagrat, Swapna and Sushupti. Okay, let me read it out. First, na anta pragyam. Now you can easily understand. Anta pragyam literally means the inward directed consciousness. It means the dreamer. He says, you are not the dreamer. Na anta pragyam. You are Turiyam, na anta pragyam. The fourth one is not the dreamer. Na bahish pragyam. You are not the waker. You the Turiyam. You are, your real nature is not the waker, which you imagine. Now all of us, this is our reality. We think, I am Swami Sarvapriyananda standing here in this lecture hall number 3 in IIT Kanpur. This is my reality. He says, no. You are the consciousness illumining this temporary appearance in your consciousness. Okay. You are not the waker. Na bahish pragyam. Anything in between, waking and dream sort of. Na ubhayata pragyam. You are not something in between also, in between consciousness. I think many students are familiar with this in between consciousness. You know, after a lot of maybe a long lecture, we tend to go into an in between consciousness between waking and dream. So I've seen many times the notes that you take in that in between consciousness are very interesting. Something the teacher is something that is coming from your subconscious mind, something the teacher is thinking, and a mixture of that will come in your copy. Okay. So you are not in between also, nothing in between. Na pragyana ghanam. Who is the pragyanam ghanam? The deep sleep. You are not this one also. You the Turiyam, pragyana ghanam. Na pragyana ghanam. Turiyam, na pragyana ghanam. And na pragyam. Here the word pragyam is interpreted as, are you some kind of God, omniscient God, Ishvara, Bhagavan? Na pragyam. You are not that also. So this is the meaning of pragyam. Na apragyam, the last word. Na apragyam, sandhi has been done, na pragyam. What does that mean? In that case, is my reality that I am not sentient? I am some jada vastu like a duster or a chalk? He says, no, not that also. So, na apragyam. You are not unconscious. You are not all-knowing God. You are not the waking person. You are not the dreaming person. You are not the sleeping person. Number one, Turiya is none of these. Number two, the second part starts. Adrishyam. What is Turiyam? Adrishyam. Literally it means invisible, but also means it's something that you cannot see, you cannot hear, you cannot touch, you cannot smell. It is not an object of our 5 sense organs. Sometimes people say, If God exists or Atma exists, why can't I see it? It's like saying, if the Higgs boson exists, why can't I see it? Because it is not yogya, it is not a subject of your normal vision. You cannot see it that way. If it was, if there is you can say that there is no elephant in the room. Why is there no elephant in the room? Because I can't see it. That's a perfectly correct statement. Because if there was an elephant, you could have seen it. But if there is an Higgs boson, you cannot say, because I cannot see it, it's not there. Similarly, here it says, the consciousness which you are is not something that you can see or smell or touch. Adrishyam. Second, avyavaharyam. It is not within transaction. Transaction means usable. What we can see and feel and touch, what we can speak about, what we can use, that is vyavaharyam. Pure consciousness is not an object which can be talked about, seen, felt and used. It is not transactable, it's avyavaharyam. But remember, it is the ground, it is the source of all vyavahara. Without that, none of this can occur. None of this can occur without the pure consciousness, which is illumining all this. But it is itself avyavaharyam. Agrahyam, it cannot be grasped, which means it is not a vishaya of the pancha karmendriyas. You cannot hold it with your hands, you cannot walk to it in pilgrimage. You're going to Badrinath or Kedarnath, I'm going to Turiyam. You cannot walk to the Turiya. And so agrahyam.
I mean, I don't know when the last time I paused because I was just so focused on it, and I was thinking, it's like, oh crap, I've been sitting here so quiet for so long, and I have not said anything. I was really, really into it, and then I did think of something real quick, just because I need to speak sometimes. It makes me think of because he was explaining that you're not in the waking world, the dreaming world, or the sleep blankness is also. It reminds me a little bit of people who are in a comatose state. And again, Sadhguru talked about this, that I'm wondering, like the body's still alive, but your brain, there's no brain activity. I'm wondering if that's you, your consciousness is just gone from your body, but your body can still be functioning. But because your real you is not there. The body's still alive, but it's just like a car. You turn on the car and you close the doors. Car's still going. No one's driving it. It's not going anywhere. Eventually, it's going to run out of the gas, and then it'll die. Kind of like your body will continue, more than likely, to operate, but eventually it'll die. I'm not a human body scientist. I know they can keep your body alive by putting some machines in you to keep it going, but without, I guess, is without you being there, eventually, well, and that's the reason why they consider you kind of dead. But they usually do it based on brain activities.
Alakshanam is a technical term. It means it cannot be inferred. Lakshana here means the sign by which you infer something. The road is wet. So what do you infer? There was rain earlier. So is there some such sign? In Sanskrit, the classic example is Parvato Vanniman Dhumat. There is fire on the hill because I can see smoke. There is a relation between smoke and fire. So if I see the smoke, I can infer there is fire. A lot of science is done like that. Through some science, and you infer a chain. But here, this cannot be inferred because there is no sign by which you can infer it. Then, achintyam, you cannot think about it. Have you thought about it? Then it is not Turiya. You cannot think about it. But remember, the opposite also holds. Whatever you think about is illumined by this Turiyam. The fact that we are having a conscious experience is because of this Turiyam. So you cannot think about it, achintyam, avyapadeshyam. It literally means it cannot be named. It cannot be named. It will take some time to explain why it cannot be named, but it's very interesting. Shankaracharya there goes into an exposition. Where can we use language? Where can we use language? There are 5 areas where language works, and he shows in the Turiyam, none of those 5 apply. I can tell you in brief, you can work it out for yourself. It goes like this. If you can use language if there is some jati, some species, if some object belongs to a class. So it's a cow. Why? We know the characteristics of the class of cows. So this object is a cow, you match it with the set and you say it belongs to that set. But there is no set of Turiyam. So it cannot be part of a class. Jati, then number second is guna. By some quality, give me the red flower. How do you distinguish the red flower from all those flowers? By the quality of red. But you cannot say Turiyam has got some quality because it's supposed to be nirgunam, beyond all qualities. Then you can use kriya, call the cook. Shankaracharya uses this example, pachaka. Pachaka is the cook. How did you use language there? By the function of that person you are saying. Call the driver, call the cook. But Turiyam is nishkriyam, no activity, unchanging. So you cannot use kriya there. Jati, guna, kriya, sambandha, relation. So call the teacher. Who is the teacher? Who is relation of teacher and student? Because of the teacher and student, there is a relationship between these two persons, father and son or whatever. But Turiya, there is no relationship because it is one unchanging reality. There is no second apart from it. All these appear in its consciousness, but they have no reality apart from it. Just as bangle, necklace and ring have no reality apart from gold. If you remove the gold, the bangle disappears. If you remove the water, the wave disappears. If you remove the wood from this, the table disappears. Similarly, Turiya is the only reality which is appearing in all these ways. So there can be no sambandha, no relation between it and anything else. And finally, there is convention. They call it Rudhi. This person's name is Prakasha. Why are you calling it Prakasha? Just like that. It's just a name given by my parents. That this person is called Prakasha or Hari or whatever. There also you cannot use that method of naming Turiya, because to name somebody you have to point out this person. It has to be pointed out apart from all other objects. This person from now on is called XYZ. But you cannot point out Turiya that way. So language cannot operate in the case of Turiyam. And so Abhyapadeshyam. Up to this part is the second part of the mantra, where you will see actually he denies that Turiya is any of this. The entire physical world, the entire dream world, and the blankness of deep sleep, all of them are denied here actually. You cannot see it, you cannot touch it, you cannot infer it, you cannot think about it, you cannot speak about it. So all of this is denied. None of this is Turiyam.
Can't speak about it.
And then the third party comes to, then what is Turiyam? Now it speaks about it in positive terms. He says, Ekatma Pratyasaram. Eka, one, Atma, I. Pratyaya, the cognition, the feeling of I-ness. Saram, the essence. If you follow this I feeling, you will come to Turiyam. You know, when Ramana Maharshi says, who am I? You practice that. It's this thing. Ekatma Pratyasaram. This is exactly what Ashtavakra Muni told Janak Raja. In that dream state where you there, dream is false, no doubt, but were you there? Yes, I was there. In this waking state now, are you there now? Yes, I am there. That is the Atma Pratyaya. I feeling, the consciousness which is in the waker, in the dreamer, and even in the sleeper, which is illumining the blankness of deep sleep. That consciousness is in and through all this, just like gold is in and through all this. And that is the Turiyam. Ekatma Pratyasar. This is a very extraordinary word. Atma Pratyaya. I feeling. You follow that I feeling, you come to a core which is the Turiyam itself. Prapancha Upashamam. Upashamam means cessation. Prapancha is, these are Prapancha. Jagrat Prapancha, Swapna Prapancha, Sushupti, you cannot call it Prapancha, but anyway. Prapancha Upashamam. What is the Turiyam? Where it is completely untouched by the trouble and the sorrows and the limitations of these three Prapanchas. Shantam.
Before we go to that, it says untouched. Again, I wish I could ask him. It's like, well, I mean, it has to be touched. I mean, not physically touched, but in terms of the fact that when you, like the king himself, he experienced something in a dream world, and then then when he became the waker, or in the waking world, he that translated. It's not like, so the waker and the dreamer, while they're separate, the waker will never know what the dreamer dream, or the waker and the dreamer will never experience each other. But because of the Turiya, it can the Turiya is what can see what's going on with the waker and the dreamer. So I was thinking the Turiya is the one that's actually actually is being touched by these things, because the only way the waker know what's going on in a dreamer is because of the Turiya. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Turiya, yeah. So I wish I could ask him. It's like the Turiya has to. Well, I don't say has to, but I mean it seems like the Turiya is in fact being touched. I'm not sure if he means like it experienced these things, and that's the reason why the waker knows what's going on in the dreamer, and the dreamer knows what's going on in the waker. Well, the sleeper is just nothing going on over there, nothing to experience there. So the Turiya is passing this information, or it's retaining the information so that it can be transmitted from the dreamer to the waker, and the waker to the dreamer, because the dreamer would not be able to create this world without the waker, or the waking world, because if there's no waking world, there is no dreamer world. I assume. So you have to be a waker first before you can. You have to be a waker first before you can become a dreamer. I don't know about the sleeper. Sleeper is just, again, it's just nothing there. It's hard to explain that one. It's just a nothingness, really. So the dreamer to me is totally reliant on the waker, but the experience between the dreamer and the waker is linked because of the Turiya. So the Turiya is being affected by the dreamer and the waker. Well, the world of the waking world and the dreamer world. He's saying it's not. Well, it's not being touched by it, which, again, I wish I could ask him that question. Let me know. Good Lord. This is so interesting. And I wish I could ask him that question. He's an amazing explainer. I can't get over that, really. He's really good. But still, there's still that... maybe I understand it, but maybe I'm still trying to find something. Because, again, I understand Turiya, and I understand the different states, the egos of who you are. This Turiya, that's your true you that experiences the waker, dreamer, and the blankness world. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I said this before. I understand it, but it's not clicking for me. But I understand it. I keep repeating that. I don't know what it is. I've had this experience once before where I was having a friend explain something to me. I understood it, but it wasn't clicking. So I asked many people to explain it to me, and I think at one explanation it finally clicked into place. It's like two Lego pieces that would fit together, but you're just not positioning it correctly. I know these two goes together, but it's just not. That's my brain right now, I think.
Absolutely peaceful, ever undisturbed. There is no world there to disturb you. That is your reality. And Shivam here means Ananda Swarupam. It is full of joy. Advaitam, non-dual. Non-dual why? Because there is nothing apart from Turiya. Just as gold is Advaitam with respect to bangle, necklace and ring. Ring is apart from necklace, necklace is apart from bangle. But none of them are apart from gold. Yeah. In fact, in all of them, what is the only reality? Gold. Why do you say it is the only reality? Because if you remove the gold, they will disappear. So with respect to these three, gold is Advaitam, non-dual. There is nothing apart from gold in this. Similarly, with respect to our universe, three universes, waking universe, dream universe, and the darkness of deep sleep. With respect to them, Turiyam is Advaitam. They are not apart from you, the Turiyam. In fact, in that sense, it's a tremendous statement. If this is not apart from you, the Turiyam, in that case, this waker is you, the Turiyam, and this entire waking world is actually you, the Turiyam. In that sense, you are the world. You can actually, the Advaitin declares, I am the world. Atme Vedam Sarvam. I am everything. I feel oneness with everything. Just like in the dream world, you were there, many people were there, non-living things were there in your dream. But when you wake up, what do you say? It was entirely constructed from my own mind. That means whatever you saw in the dream was you, actually you. You are one with everything in the dream. You means the waker. You are one with everything in your dream. When you were dreaming, everything was generated from you.
Yeah, yeah.
So you are one with everything.
Sorry, I made a weird face there, but it clicked that moment. Yeah, I get that. Sorry, I got to reposition too. But yeah, I get it. Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, your dream is manufactured by your mind. Your experience, your waker. See, and again, this is where the waker experience. Because without the waker, the dreamer has nothing to go off, because the dreamer is based entirely off what the waker experienced. The dreamer, to me, is highly dependent on the waker. Kind of like when you were a child, when you didn't understand. Well, I don't know. Because you're a child, you don't really dream. I don't think. At least you can't remember anything from your childhood. So, as the waker and a child, you probably couldn't even see anything either. I mean, you have very poor vision, I'm sure. When you're a baby, not child. But yeah, again, yeah, that, sorry, that weird face probably looked weird. I don't know what it looked like, but yeah, I got him, I understood him.
In the same way, in the waking world also, everything is generated from the Turiya or projected in the Turiya. So we are all one with all that we experience in that sense. So Advaitam. Last part you can easily understand now. Chaturtham manyante. People think it is the fourth, roll number 4 here. They say manyante. Foolish people think there is something fourth, some gold apart from bangle, necklace and ring, some gold is there. But there is no Atma apart from these 3. You have to look there itself. So the fourth one is not here. The fourth one is here, which is shining through these 3. Mm-hmm. You have to examine the experiences in the waking state, in the dream state, and the sleeping state, and for that you have to do it in the waking state. To examine the experiences of dream or sleep, you don't have to go into dream and sleep. You don't have to start sleeping. You have to look back upon those experiences and see what was common all through. What was common all through. It is not a fourth apart from all this. That's why he says Chaturtham manyante. Chaturtham literally means Turiya. People think it is a fourth reality, but actually it is the only reality, because 1, 2, 3 are actually false. These 3 are not real. They are appearances. Their reality is fourth. There are not 4 things here. There are not 4 things here. There is only one thing, which is gold. It appears as bangle sometimes as necklace, sometimes as ring. The reality is gold. Similarly, the reality is the consciousness, which we are calling the fourth Turiyam. It appears as the waker now. It appears as the dreamer. It appears as the deep sleeper. And Chaturtham manyante. Who is this Turiya? We are coming to the end. Sa Atma. Sa Atma means that is what you are. Atma means I. Atma literally means I. Atma does not mean a ghost or something, Paramatma, nothing like that. Atma means I. Sa Atma. That fourth one is the answer to this question, which we started with. Who am I? Who am I? This fourth one. Turiyam. Sa Atma. Now what do you do after all this? Sa Vijñeyaha. That has to be realized. Not only listening about it in a class or reading about it in a book, but making it a living reality. One interesting thing, Swami Vivekananda says, I will end with this. Swami Vivekananda says, he who runs away from the world to meditate and die in a Himalayan cave, searching for God, he has missed the way. He who plunges headlong into the luxuries of the world, he wants to enjoy the world, he too has missed the way. Then what is the way? The way is to deify the world, to spiritualize your everyday life. That's what Swami Vivekananda says. Now, with this background, you can actually understand what he means. It is the pure consciousness which you are appearing as the waker now. But it is the same thing which in all beings. And it's the same thing which appears as the non-living world. And therefore, it is the same spiritual reality which I am, which you all are, which all this is. In that sense, we are one with the world. That is spiritualization of the world. When Upanishad says, Ishavasyam idam sarvam, you see God in all beings. This is how you see. This is the most profound and very sophisticated way of looking at it, which you find in the Mandukya Upanishad. And therefore, if anybody, Swami Vivekananda says, if you leave all this and search for Turiya elsewhere, it is like throwing away the bangle, necklace and ring and searching for gold. You miss the way. If you grasp hold of this waking world, this alone is real, and I am this one, then you are in trouble, because this one will slowly become old and sick and die. This waking world is continuously changing.
Oh.
Sir, why do we consider light better than dark?
Okay. Hope I didn't miss anything on that last part. You kind of just
Yeah.
cut there.
But I still have that feeling that we consider some things as good.
Yeah.
Why so? Why are the others bad?
Yeah. See, there is certain predisposition within us. Light better than darkness, if you say, we always experience ourselves as conscious beings. Isn't it so? Very word experience. Experience itself includes, it's almost tautological. It's almost circular to say that we experience ourselves as consciousness, because experience includes the fact that there must be consciousness. Otherwise, how will you experience? So, our very nature is to be conscious. You have never been unconscious. You have never had an experience of unconsciousness. When you come out of, suppose you were unconscious, you come out of it, then you think back and you say, at that time I was unconscious. But in unconsciousness, you don't experience anything. Blankness. So you always experience your own self as consciousness, as a conscious being. Now just extend it. Light is very much like consciousness. Physical light, of course, is a good example for consciousness. Why? It illumines. And we are, just the opposite is darkness, which is an absence of light. So in that sense, we like light because it's very much according to our nature. Another thing is, we always search for happiness. We always search for happiness. We try to avoid unhappiness. Therefore, certain things which make us happy, we say they are good. With certain things which make us unhappy, we say they are bad. Although the things in themselves may be quite neutral. They may not be good or bad as such. But the effect they are having on us is happiness and unhappiness.
Like ice cream or pizza. They're both good and bad. Too much is a bad thing, but a good thing.
Now, the whole idea here is, the self which I have discovered here is beyond this happiness and unhappiness. The happiness and unhappiness are all within this waking world and the dream world. Okay. Question? Yeah, there's a question there. Yeah.
One is that here they have used Anta Prajnam, Bahish Prajnam.
Bahish Prajnam.
Prajnam.
It actually should be Bahish Pragyam, and the spelling mistake is there. Yeah.
So they have used in Napumsakalingam.
Yeah.
Suddenly they will change it to Pullingam in last.
Yeah.
Why is that,
Actually, it is difficult to say. They will simply pass it off as Ashva Prayoga. Ashva Prayoga means, Ashva means comes from the Rishi. So you don't hold the Rishis to the rules of Sanskrit grammar. So you will find a lot of times in Upanishads, in Kena Upanishad, for example, you will find this usage, Te Vidanchakara. Te Vidanchakara. They knew. But you know Sanskrit grammar, you will say it should be Te Vidanchakruhu. They knew in plural. If Te is there, it should be plural. Vidanchakara is singular. Now the question is raised in Kena Upanishad, how come you are starting with plural and you end up, the verb is in singular? This is a basic Sanskrit problem. But there you cannot touch it, because the idea is the Shrutis. You should not use your grammar on the Shrutis, you just leave it as Ashva Prayoga. The translation would be roughly poetic license. Poetic license, just like you would not hold a poet to the rules of grammar. So here also you leave it, you just leave it like that.
That would be can be confusing, especially. I mean, I guess the reason why certain words are very well defined is because to leave out as much confusion as possible. when you start thinking about like constructing things, especially deadly things, you want to make sure the instructions are quite clear because you don't want to make a mistake on something that you're going to use that your life depends on. But I mean, and also is to, at least for me, is to make sure that it cannot be misunderstood. But I'm hoping that, you know, because maybe he's, I guess, talking about the grammar of Sanskrit, which well, I hope that it can't be confused, and that can be a problem, because if people was it like, again, the Bible, which is written in English, they're grammatically correct, they're still misinterpreted because of how people interpret the words and the language and the sentence structure. So that's why I hope things are very clear, but I mean, each to each their own, I guess. I mean, you can't. He says not to hold it up, and nothing I can really say about that. But hopefully, people don't misinterpret it too bad, I guess.
Yeah.
Last week we said that sir, Vijnana.
Huh.
So who is that who has to know all these things? Because
Yeah.
he doesn't have that any of the sambandha with any of the other things.
True,
So
true.
the knowing sambandha also who should have?
Absolutely. This is a good question, and I will deal with it tomorrow in one of the karikas. I'll just give you one line answer. Gaudapada Acharya will take up this question, I think in the 17th or 18th karika, which will come in the second handout, which we'll get tomorrow. And the answer he gives is, just now, quite apart from all this, we find ourselves ignorant. We do not know this. We are just reading about it. We don't feel that. But our reality now is that we feel, I am this one, this I don't know. I don't know myself as this. This ignorance I have. About what? About the Turiyam. I have an ignorance about the Turiyam, and because of this ignorance, I imagine that I am the waker. Now, in this state, I am the one who has to realize myself as Turiyam. When I realize myself as Turiyam, I will realize that there was no waker or waking state separate from me.
Sorry, he says Turium, but I see there Turiya. So I'm guessing it's just the same thing, just maybe how it's used in a sentence.
Gaudapada Acharya's answer, one sentence answer to that is, for the purpose of instruction, the relation between knower and known. In fact, this is the exact word he used, upadeshat. For the purpose of teaching, the relationship is set up between guru, shishya, shastra, and all of that is sublated, badhita, when you realize yourself as the Turiyam. It's not that they will disappear. Moment you realize I am Turiyam, suddenly Sarva Priyananda will disappear, the classroom will disappear, everything will go into a haze of white light. No, no, no. They will still be there. Just like when you realize the blue sky, the blueness in the sky. Actually, the sky is not blue.
Yeah.
You know the physics behind it. So it just looks blue. Now,
Yeah.
once you understand the physics behind it, you know fully well the sky is not blue. After that, when you look up at the sky, what do you see? Blue sky.
Yeah.
Similarly, here you will realize what is the Turiyam. This world will keep on appearing.
Huh.
Your friends need not be scared, that if you realize the Turiyam, we will all disappear. You will realize the background. Just like once you realize this is gold, it doesn't mean the bangle will disappear, or the necklace or the ring will disappear. You just know the reality behind it. That will come in the 17th or 18th karika. Exactly this question is answered. Yeah. Any other question?
I need to know that.
So Maharaj, how the Turiya is separated from all these things?
I'll just finish that one and come to.
What is behind consciousness? That is what I am asking. So what is consciousness? Because it is such that is flowing through all these three states.
Yeah.
But then who is observing that consciousness? What is behind that consciousness?
The answer would be, there is nothing behind the consciousness, because according to Advaita Vedanta, consciousness is swaprakasha. It's like light, a tube light which illumines this hall. The hall is in darkness. When you switch on the tube light, the hall is illumined. Now, do you need one more tube light to illumine that tube light? You don't. The tube light illumines itself and the hall. In the same way, consciousness is self-illumined, and it illumines whatever comes in front of it. So you don't have to posit one more consciousness, because then it leads to what is called anavastha, regresses as ad infinitum. And it goes with our experience also. When I am conscious, I don't require one more consciousness to illumine the consciousness. But remember, this consciousness is apart from the thoughts.
Basically, it's almost like the God's God, and God's God, and God's God. So if the consciousness needs an illumination from another consciousness, what consciousness needs to illuminate that consciousness, and then the consciousness that illuminates that consciousness, which illuminates that consciousness, which illuminates that consciousness.
One thought can be about another thought. A thought can be about the world, and a thought can be about other thoughts also. So thoughts can be about other thoughts. That's what's called introspection. But this consciousness is not introspection. I'll tell you one interesting question came. You've heard of Susan Blackmore, those who do research in consciousness studies and AI and all. She is a well-known researcher. So she says this idea of self-consciousness, I, it's nothing permanent. And some spiritual people say I-ness, the permanent I is there. No, no. She says it's just like the example she gives is a refrigerator. When you open the door, there's a light. So whenever you open the door, there's a light. But when you close the door, is the light there?
I heard that question too before. We could easily find that out. We can just actually, there's a little tab on the refrigerator you can push and it'll turn off the light so you know it's off. I'm cheating here, but I get what it's saying.
Actually, because you know how the refrigerator is designed, so there's no light there, you know that. But we can never see it.
Unless the light's gone bad and then there's no light whether you open the fridge or not, and you have to get a flashlight. Which
unless you are a mechanic when you open everything up. But whenever you open the door, there is a light. And these people, Susan Blackmore says that these people, they make a mistake. When they look in their minds, they see an I-ness. But the I-ness disappears. Suppose we are talking about flow yesterday. When you are in flow, in fact, the I feeling disappears. So there is no permanent I, that's what she is saying. But she is making a fundamental mistake here. Advaita Vedanta would say, what she is taking, the refrigerator light, that is not consciousness. That is the ahankara of the waker, the I, the ego here, the knower. This comes and goes. This also comes and goes. This also comes and goes. But what illumines their coming and going, the station master, that is what is meant by Turiyam here, pure consciousness. See, till today, in Western thought, mostly in Western psychology, even in neuroscience, they don't make a distinction between mind and consciousness. They don't make a distinction between mind and consciousness.
That's
Thoughts
where I'm at.
and consciousness are supposed to be the same. In Western poetry, philosophy, you'll see soul means the mind. Personality, mind, soul, they're taken as one entity.
And yeah, that's exactly what I believed prior to watching this. I call it wisdom videos because it is very much wisdom. But yeah, and then when Sadhguru and everyone else has been commenting, it's like there's this detachment between consciousness, which again, the understanding to have a consciousness is your mind, and your body. The consciousness is separate from the body. It's separate from the mind, which is, again, it took a while, but I understand there's this thing that's separate from your body and your mind, the physical representation of who you are, and then your consciousness, which is a non-physical representation, the Turiya. But I'm having a problem piecing it together. Not to say that they're all one and the same. No, it's just like, I understand this, understand this. Now, how do I understand how they work together? I understand that the Turiya itself sees the waker, the dreamer, and the blankness. But I don't know, maybe the more I talk about it, hopefully I will make it click on its own, or maybe you guys can comment and explain it a different way. Again, like I said, this happens very few times in my life, but where I understand it, it's just not clicking. And this philosophy here is just something new to me, so obviously that's not going to help. I mean, obviously it will not click as fast as things that I've experienced before. Again, like the example of my coworker trying to explain something to me, I understood it. It still took a while for it to click into place. And the way I made it click into place is by asking everyone's, or as many people as I could talk to, about trying to understand this thing, and maybe they explain it in a way that I can make it click. Again, it's not to say that they're one and the same. It's just when I say they click, it means I understand the concept between the two separations. Excuse me.
But in Indian thought, not only Advaita, consciousness or the Atman is separate from the mind, and that is separate from the body. A trichotomous view of the human personality. Body, mind, and Atman. So consciousness is apart from the mind, where this I may come and go like a refrigerator light. This may come and go. She's right there. But what Advaita speaks about is not that I.
I like the train station explanation a lot better. That makes more sense than the refrigerator light, because the waker state is train number 1, dreamer state is train number A, letter A. And the sleeper state, well, that's just a vacant station, whereas the conductor has always been there, and you are the conductor. That is a really good explanation of that, honestly.
Speaking about the light which shines on that eye. When the eye is present, when the eye is absent also. One more question, then we wrap up. I think today's going was a little heavy. I sort of expected it to be heavy. Okay, I'll take up your question. Yeah, go ahead.
If I know that at the moment that I am not a waker, I am not a dreamer, I am not a sleeper, so I should be indifferent to all the emotions like happiness, sorrows, or everything.
Yes.
I should just see emotions going in front of me.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So why should I feel sympathy to a poor, or why should I have a sympathy towards someone who needs my help? I should be different to it.
True.
Why shouldn't I kill him?
Yeah, true.
Wait, what's that last
First
part?
of all, you wouldn't kill him also because you would be indifferent to your own emotions also.
That would extreme, but it's an extreme. Hey, sometimes extreme examples are great examples. Just please let it be still an example.
Right. So now there's an interesting question, but the answer is also pretty straightforward. Now you see, there are two ways of looking at this. One is the Turiyam is apart from the waker and the waking world. Right? First of all, why are we identified with all this? The reason given in Advaita is because we are ignorant of the Turiyam. We are not aware of it at all. We are not aware of it at all. We don't understand it. We may read about it, but we don't feel it. When we are ignorant of something, error comes. This is the fundamental thing. From ajnana, or let's use English, from ignorance comes
Thank
error.
you.
Comes error. If I don't know that there is a rope, in the darkness, the rope is there, a semi-darkness. So what do I see? A snake. So I'm ignorant of the rope and I make the error, I think it's a snake.
You know, whenever he was talking about darkness, about the story in the very beginning where he goes into the Himalayan temples, and it's nothing but darkness. He can't see whether his eyes are open or closed. It's like, man, there must be a lot of stubbed toes in there.
Right?
There's
I'm
error right
ignorant
there.
of myself as the untouched, unchanging, pure consciousness. And what I see in myself in front of me, the world, this body and mind. And I immediately identify myself with this mind. Mind is full of thoughts, happiness, sadness, desires, everything. And I go on like this. I become the waker. I become the waker. Now, this is one way of looking at it. So the Turiyam is apart from the waker. To answer your question, Turiyam is apart from the waker. If you're really apart from it, you ought to be indifferent to it. Or another way of looking at it is the Turiyam itself which appears as the waker and the waking world. Just like in your dream, you appear as the dreamer and the dreaming world. The one who is sleeping and dreaming. In his mind, he creates a dream, and he is also himself in that dream. In fact, the entire dream, the people in the dream, the animals and the non-living things, and he himself in the dream, all of them are not apart from his mind. He's actually become everything in that dream.
Yeah.
And this states that this Turiyam itself is appearing as all this. In other words, the Turiyam is one with all. Now, some sadhaka or some spiritual giant may stress the oneness aspect of it. You'll find in Vivekananda again and again and again, he says, you are one, we are one with the universe. It's not a rhetorical thing. You should feel one with the universe, which is good, but he states this as a fact, as an assertion. Actually, you are one with the universe. If you limit yourself to this body and mind, you're separate from all bodies and minds. But if you see what is behind that, like gold, then you are one with everything made of gold. Gold is one with everything made of gold. You see yourself as pure consciousness. In yourself, all these things are taking place. Then you have a sense of oneness with all beings. If you stress that oneness, then the unhappiness of a person, the misery of another person actually will bring a response in you. Just as right now, my misery brings a response in me, when I have sarvatma bhava, the oneness with everybody, it automatically does. And you see it in the lives of great sadhakas and great spiritual giants. They respond to the life, to the sufferings of others.
Huh. So it's kind of like sympathy. Basically what the guy was asking, it's like, why should I be sympathetic to someone? Why don't I just kill him? It's like, good lord, that one extreme. Yeah, but to be indifferent, basically to be indifferent. Yeah, he was saying that, well, you should be indifferent because killing is not indifference. It's actually very much a very different response. And then from what I understand, what he's talking about at the end there, good Lord, this is forever, is that because of what you feel within yourself. Oh God, I had it. It's basically, to me, how it translated to, it's how people are sympathetic to each other. Because someone is suffering, you feel sympathetic towards them and you want to help them. I had a really good explanation there. And I understand it, but I don't know what that explanation was, what I was thinking about. So let's continue on. I need to stop talking.
But you're right. There may be a kind of spiritual giant who does not respond, who may not be cruel, but may simply be indifferent to the world which he will see as a dream. So there have been such people, and they have also been very great spiritual people also. And you can see it in them, a kind of deep peace and joy is there within them. If somebody comes in front who is suffering, they will help. And that has been explained in different ways. A simple explanation would be, these people have gone through a long period of spiritual practice. And so the mind of that person is suffused with thoughts of good thoughts, helpful thoughts. After realization, when he sees himself apart from all, what would he do? He would let the body and mind go on doing what they were doing, like an inertia of motion. So the inertia of motion of a sage would be to help others. He is apart from the helping also. He sees himself as illumining both the helper and the helped. This here, we are really going to the peak of the Everest here. The final word the Upanishads have to say about this. And I've packed so much into one class. I was seeing the explanation given by a very senior Swami. I've given you just 4 or 5 points here, the whole 1 hour session. That Swami, he explains this verse in 127 points, out of which I've given you less than 10% today. So if there seem to be gaps, it's very natural. If you think it's all perfectly clear, then either you are a realized soul or you haven't been following what's going on.
Oh God, haven't I not been following going on? It seems pretty clear. There's still some gaps, but like not as much gaps as I think he might want me to think. Again, the gaps is, I've explained it already about the dreamer and the waker and I don't know what else. Jeez, he said a lot.
There should be some gaps actually. There should be some areas of confusion or you can feel a little uneasy about what's going on.
Not uneasy. No.
Should we wrap it up? Tomorrow, I'm going into the extensions of this mantra, the implications. And Gaudapada Acharya's Karikas will take up 7 or 8 Karikas, which is in the second handout, which will come tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I guess I gotta pause right there because it's freaking, oh, good Lord. Alright, so I definitely gotta watch part 2. I am very much interested in this. Hopefully he's the one that's talking, because I understand him a lot. I really do. He is so easy to understand. I said that the first time around, I believe, when I watched him, and yeah, I thought his name was Swami, but apparently not. I gotta fix that for sure. I will just end it. So that's my reaction to who am I? If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.